Welcome to Study Loop.
So Veritek Wholesalers operates at capacity and sells furniture items to four department store chains. And Mr. Veritek commented, we apply a receipt to determine product line profitability. Now, the same ideas apply to customer profitability, and we should find out our customer profitability as well. Now, Veritek Wholesalers sends catalog to corporate purchasing departments on a monthly basis, and the customers are entitled to return unsold merchandise within a 6 months period from the purchase date and receive a full purchase price refund, right? Now we're given the data that was collected from last year's operations, and the customers pay the transportation costs, and the cost of goods sold averages 75% of sale. Now we have to determine the contribution to profit from each customer last year and comment on our solution. So we're going to use the data we're given, right? I'm going to start answering questions. So I'm first going to determine the contribution to profit from each customer by drawing the table. So to start with, I'm going to have the particulars. I'm just going to draw a table, and we're going to have we have four customers. So I'm going to have customers over here, and then we have particulars over here. Particulars, and then we have customer 1, customer 2, customer 3, customer 4, and then the total amount. So we have total, we have customer 4, we have customer 3, we have customer 2, we have customer 1. So it should look just like this. Customer 2 and customer 1. Okay. And now first thing on our particulars is gross sales. So that's A. So gross sales is A, and then for customer 1 it is $40,000. Mind you, everything is in dollars. 40,000. For customer 2 is 20,000. For customer 3 is 110,000. For customer 4 is 95,000. So therefore the total will be basically us adding everything together, and that will be 265,000. Now moving on to the next thing, we're going to have the sales return, and this B. For customer 1 is 8,000. 2 is 3,000. Oh, that was a mistake. It's 3,000. 3 is 7,700. For 4 is 9,000. And therefore the total will be 27,700. Now the net sales basically be A minus B, which is gross sales minus sales returned, and that will give us net sales. So that will be C, right, which is equals to A minus B. Right, yeah. So for this, we're going to subtract it, and we're going to have for this we're going to have 32,000. For this, for customer 2, we're going to have 17,000. For customer 3, we're going to have 102,300. Let me rewrite this so it's not confusing. So we're going to have 102,300. And for customer 4, we're going to have 86,000. And the total would be 237,300. So that will be the end of it. Now moving on, we're going to less. So now we're going to less cost of goods sold. The question told us that it's 75% of net sales. Let's not forget that. So cost of goods sold is 75% of net sales. So with that information, we'll basically find 75% of whatever we have at net sales. So for customer 1, it's going to be 24,000. For customer 2, 75% is 12,750. For customer 3, 64,500. I'm sorry, that was a mistake. For customer 3 is 76,725. For customer 4 is 64,500. So therefore the total will be the addition, which is 177,975. Now moving on, we're going to have customer related costs. Customer related costs. So for that, the first thing will be regular order, and this is $30 per order. So for this, we're going to have 900 for customer 1. For customer 2, we're going to have 4,200. For customer 3, we're going to have 1,650. For customer 4, we're going to have 3,000. The total would be 9,750. And then moving on, we're going to have rush orders. Let me extend these lines. Okay, we're going to have rush orders. And this is $150 per order. And then we're going to have, for this, customer 1 will be 1,200, customer 2 is 6,900, customer 3 is 1,800, customer 4 is 6,750, and the total is 16,650. Now, return items. Return items will be $15 per order, rather per item. And then it will be 1,440 for customer 1. Customer 2 will be 360. Customer 3 will be 960. Customer 4 will be 480. And the total will be 3,240. So now, therefore, the catalogs and customer support would be catalogs and customer support. So we're gonna have 1,200. We're gonna have 1,200, basically 1,200, 1,200, and 1,200. I'm sorry, it's gonna be the total, so that will be 4,800. So now the total cost will be D. Total cost, and that will basically be the total of everything we just did. That will be 28,740. For customer B, it will be 25,000. Let me make this clear. 25,410. For customer 3, it will be 82,335. For customer 4, it will be 75,930, and the total will be 212,415. Now, operating profit or loss. In this case, it's, let me see, operating profit or loss, and this is going to be E is equal to C minus D. So we're basically subtracting C minus D. And remember that C is net sales. So net sales minus total cost will give the operating profit or loss. So for customer A, customer 1, the operating profit will be 3,260. For customer 2, it's a loss of 8,410. For customer C, it's 19,965, and there's a profit. And for customer 4 is $10,070. So the total will be 24,885. So now the operating profits will be operating profit, and this is going to be in percentage. So it will be E operating profit divided by A, and A is the gross sales. So this will give you 8.15% for customer 1 minus 42.05% for customer 2 and 18.15% for customer 3 and 10.60% for customer 4, and the total will be 9.39%. So this is basically what the contribution to profits from each customer should look like. So moving on, the contribution to profit from customer 1 would be, so this is the end of the table right here. And the contribution to profits from customers 1 would be $3,260, which is right here. From customers 2 would be minus 8,410. From customers 3 would be what's right here, 19,965. And of course, to customers 4, it would be $10,070. So that's what the question wants us to do. So now moving on, the percentage contribution to profit is highest in from customers 3, because if you look at the operating profit percentage, it's 8% for customer 1 minus 40 is even in negative for customers 2, and is the highest from 18.15 for customers 3. So basically the percentage contributions to profit is highest from customer 3. So we can say that the percentage contributions to profit is highest from customer 3, while the percentage contribution to profit is lowest from customer 2 because it's negative. So it's highest in customer 3 and lowest from customer 2. Now customer 2, right, is contributing losses that decreases the entire profit. So instead of this to be increasing the profit, it's decreasing the profit, and therefore the owner of the company, which is Veritek Wholesalers, they should focus on retaining customer 3 and to reduce resources applied to customer 2, or otherwise it will break the relationship with the customer 2. So we can say that Veritek Wholesalers should retain customers 3 and reduce resources from customer 2. Resources applied to customer 2. So now moving on, we're going to So now we're going to be calculating the overhead cost from customers 1, customers 2, customers 3, and customers 4. So this is basically going to be overhead cost. So for customers 1, we're going to have the activity over here. activity, we'll have the cost driver over here. We'll have the overhead rate over here, which is they will have the total quantity of cost drivers over here. They will have the overhead costs allocated over here. So this is number one, this is number two, and then this is 1 multiplied by 2. So we're just going to work with the table. Just like this. And we'll basically do the same thing for customers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the activity is regular order processing. And the cost driver is regular orders. And overhead rate is $30. The total quantity of cost drivers is 30, and therefore overhead cost allocated will be the multiplication, that's $900. The rush order processing and the cost driver will be rush orders. And the overhead rate is $150. The total quantity is 8, and the multiplication will be 1,200. Now, the return items processing and the cost driver is the items returned. And the overhead rate is $15. The total quantity is 96, and the overhead cost allocated will be 1,440. Now, the catalogs and customer support. The cost driver is the number of customers. And the overhead rate is 1,200. The total quantity is 1, and therefore the total would be 1,200. So now the total would be $4,740, and this is for customer 1. So now we're going to move to customer 2 and do the same thing we just did. So instead of me writing it over and over again, I'm just going to write the overhead rates, the total quantity of cost drivers, and the overhead cost allocated. So it's basically going to be the regular order processing, the regular orders, the rush order processing, the rush orders, return item processing, the item return, catalogs, and customer support, and a number of customers. So just to reduce that, I'm going to do the same thing for customers too, but this time I'll just be doing the overhead rates. So for the first thing, the overhead rate, for the regular order processing is $30. The total quantity of drivers, of course, drivers, is 140. So therefore, the overhead cost allocated would be 4,200. And this is for regular orders. Now the rush orders, would be the overhead rate would be $150. The total quantity would be 46, and the overhead cost would be 6,900. And this is for rush orders processing. So moving on, for the return items processing, the overhead rate is $15. The total quantity of course drivers is 24, and the overhead cost allocated is 360. And this is for returned items. And then the catalogs and customer support, the overhead rate is 1,200. The quantity is one. Oh, I didn't mean to put $1 over there. It's just one. And then the overhead cost allocated is 1,200. And this is for catalogs and customer support. Now, the total will basically be the total of everything. So the total for customer 2 is equal to 12,660. Now, moving on to customer 3. Moving on to customer 3, we're going to have the same thing, but for regular order processing, the overhead rates will be $30. The total quantity is 55, and then the overhead cost would be 1,650. I'm sorry. That's the multiplication of both of them. Now for the rush order, the overhead rate is 150. The quantity is 12, and the overhead cost allocated is 1,800. Now for the return items processing, the overhead rate is $15. The quantity is 64, and the overhead cost allocated is $960. So now the catalog and customer support, the overhead rate is 1,200. The quantity is 1, and the overhead cost is 1,200. So now the total would be 5,610. So now moving on to customers 4. Customers 4, we have regular order, and the overhead rate is $30. The total quantity is 100, and the overhead costs allocated is 3,000. The rush order, the overhead rate is 150, the quantity is 45, and the overhead cost is 6,750. Now for the returned items processing overhead rate is $15, the quantity is 32, and the overhead cost allocated is 480. And the catalogs and customer support, the overhead rate is 1,200, the quantity of course drivers is 1, and the overhead cost will be 1,200. So now the total would be equals to 11,430. So that's the answer